I get to the
Wow.
part where I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's next, or I self-doubt sometimes. But
One
man,
thing about Youssouph that since I've known him, I've never seen him angry. Like even as we were preparing for this episode, I think he mentioned something about like yelling or something like that. And I'm like, Youssouph, you do not yell. I only see him
yeah.
smile. It's either he just wear it really well, but I think that it really has a lot to do with how you pour into yourself and how much you pour into
Yeah.
yourself. Hey y'all, it's your girl Darlencia, and I am super excited for the next episode of Creative Spotlight Unplugged. Today, we're going to shift a little bit, and I'm going to invite one of my good friends who has done a lot of great work in the Philadelphia community. Some people may know him as Mr. Somebody Gotta Do It. I've known him for a few years, and I'm super excited for him to kind of divulge in a lot of the things that he has been doing, not only in the Philadelphia community and in local areas, but also back home in the motherland. Can we give a round of applause for Youssouph?
Appreciate you having me. Appreciate it.
Hello. Wait, can we see the shirt real
Listen,
quick?
somebody gotta do it. I hope y'all gotta look at this.
Listen, look at the
Yeah.
shirt. All right.
Why not
Somebody got
us?
to do it. I love it. I love it. Thank you for being here. I'm super
Of
excited to
course.
have you here. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah. Some years.
I
We got some years in there.
I know. I feel a
Yeah.
little old being around you right now. So I know about you, but everyone else don't know about you. So could you
Right.
provide an introduction of yourself and your brand?
Well, for me, I started this. I was fortunate enough to start this 8.5 years ago. This
Mm,
June, we're making 9 years, June 1st to be exact. So when we started, it was basically just us hashtagging on social media,
right.
primarily Instagram and Twitter. And this was just a means for us to inspire yourself because when you're young, like we like to go to the gym, we like to do
Mm.
extra
I wasn't
activities.
one of the people that like to go to the gym, but
Yeah.
okay.
So we was just saying somebody gotta do it. Like literally after everything we do,
Right.
somebody gotta do it. But long and behold, this was something that just transferred bigger than us. So we started to see people pick up on it and start to use the same hashtag. So when people used to do a double shift at work, they'll be like you always say, somebody gotta do it. Or
Mm.
they didn't want to do their homework. They'd be like, you know what, I don't feel like doing this work. But like you always say, somebody gotta do it. And it became something where like me and my friends at that time being young and just having that entrepreneur spirit because we always did different business things.
Right. At,
We
at at a young
at a
age.
young
So
age,
what
yeah,
what what age are we talking?
like 19, 20. That was the
That's young.
ballpark for all of us.
Right. Right.
19, 20 years old. We just was sitting one day just talking. We like, yo, we got everybody saying somebody got to do it.
Right.
Like, we just got to capitalize.
I mean,
So,
it really is catchy.
yeah. So, we didn't think it was going to be that big. So, just us being those people that just figured, like, yo, let's just make the most out of this. Why not? So, we just decided to make shirts. So, we literally ordered 24 shirts. It was 12 white ones and 12 black ones. And what I mean, we was going in our trunks, going to people everywhere, just selling those
Period.
shirts.
Hustling when
We had no
young.
business plan, but the good thing about what opportunity meets preparation, you don't know the beauty that can come out of it. So we're just grateful that it's been 8 years and it's been way bigger than we can imagine.
Could you say that again? When opportunity meets.
Preparation.
What does that mean? Could be. I like that. That's kind of deep. You might have to make that, on a shirt. Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, because the way I look at it, it's better to just be prepared with no opportunity than to let an opportunity come by. You're not prepared.
That's good.
So we was always
That's
hustling.
good.
So because we just had that in us and just was figuring things out as we go, when that opportunity came, we already had the conversations.
Yeah.
That's what all we had to do was like, yo, look around each other like, should we do this?
Right.
And everybody was like, yo, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I'm just glad, and that just shows you the difference of taking the step and not taking the step because I could have been here either way 8-9 years later and not be doing this, but I'm here now doing this. So it's like it just showed you it's just by making a decision.
Right. I love that you mentioned that taking a step. In the first episode, Friday have mentioned that he was making beats every day. And so he felt as though one idea could change his entire situation. So even if like you're tired or something like that, or you didn't have motivation, because let's be real, as creatives, entrepreneurs, you don't always get that motivation.
Absolutely.
However, you don't know if that next idea, if that you just give it another try, if that's what actually changes your entire dynamic. So I big you up for,
appreciate it.
For keep going. And also, I also highlight that you had supportive friends that didn't kill your dream, at such a young age. They saw the vision, and I think that's really important.
Huge part. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So as an entrepreneur, you've done a lot. You've done a lot of amazing things. So we've talked about that.
Yeah,
You started off with the clothing line, and then you expanded by having, fashion shows as well. Is there
yeah,
anything else that you've done in addition to that?
yeah. So outside of the fashion shows, we know we always had a heart for doing just work for our people, like just to do service. So,
Right.
and with that message, I always knew that, yo, this is a message first. So we always wanted to make sure we're showing that with everything we're doing. Like we're just tying it in. Again, I keep
Yeah.
saying storytelling. This is our
Right.
story. We're the authors of our story. So what we started to do early on, especially when we first started, we was doing like kickball tournaments and raise money for that and just give it to like,
Mm.
to feed the feed the children
Mhm.
foundations, just things
Mhm.
of that sort.
Mhm.
Then we started to go to schools. Like that's something that started early too. Just
Yeah.
going to local schools, to middle schoolers, high schoolers, even college students, just to just talk to them, share our journey, and
Right.
also help them as we're helping ourselves on the way. And then from there, we started to do scholarship funds,
I
and
love
then
that.
that started to pick up. The more we started to build our business, and then as of late, we started to even go back home in Africa to
Mm.
do work
And
back
we'll get to
home.
that.
Yeah, so it's just been, and even like we got a talk show. I could go on and on. We do business seminars. We gonna get there, but it's just
Okay.
it's a
Right.
full
Mm.
ledge brand right now. Thank God.
All right, so let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Where we live. I mean, I still claim New York. I'm just here working in Philly, but let's say where you live, not but where we
Yeah.
live in Philadelphia,
Right.
right?
Right.
And understanding the culture and the climate of Philadelphia. Why do you feel as though it's been important for you to spread this message, especially amongst the youth?
That's a really
Because you
good
do a lot
question.
of school, a lot of work within high schools, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, my tagline has always been "Be who you needed when you was younger."
I was going to say somebody got to do
Yeah, somebody got to do it. It's always
it.
gonna be somebody got to do it. But when I say "Be who you needed when you was younger," I always think back to if I had said opportunities like what we're doing, what you're doing, what the people around us are doing
Right.
for the youth right now. I can only imagine where we could have been at. But I'm grateful that we still
Right.
ended up where we're at,
Right.
at God's timing. But I do
Hmm.
know that, I'm somebody that understands representation matters.
It
I
does.
come from a single parent household. I wasn't raised with a father. I made some mistakes, just like a lot of people. I
Mm.
got mishaps. I got kicked out of high schools. A lot of people don't know I had a lot of backstory of just finding myself in a lot of trouble.
Right.
But I also was able to turn my life around and took advantage of a second chance. So
Hmm.
this is where the wisdom comes in at to let these kids know, like, yo, what they say is smart people learn from their mistakes, but like you learn from other people's mistakes. That's what makes you wise. So we just want them to just see that you can be everything you set out to do because there's living testimonies of people like us that's doing it. And we also want them to just know that, yo, it's okay to fall and fail and just
Mm.
know that it's going to be good because a lot of times people judge kids prematurely. You
Absolutely.
just look at them and based off their circumstance, you telling them they're not going to amount to something or you're not going to be this. Like words can stick with people.
That's true.
So we don't want to make that mistake because I know what it felt like when I was in that position. So that's why I'm on this
Mm.
constant journey. It's a journey because it's an everlasting journey to continue to pour into the kids, to go to the schools, to create the mentoring programs, to give
Yeah.
back, give out much resources as we can because we know that be who we needed when we was younger. It
I
goes
love
back to that.
I love that. When you were speaking, it brought me back to a memory in high school where I didn't know much about college applications and
Yeah,
going to college, and I guess maybe because my grades wasn't that good because I was involved in a lot of extracurricular
yeah, yeah.
activities, and my guidance school counselor told me that don't even waste your time applying to college, just go to community college because you're not going to get into
Exactly.
anything.
Yeah.
And I graduated from Penn State and just received my master's from the
Congrats.
University of Pennsylvania. So if
Congrats.
I didn't have someone telling me at the time,
Right,
like,
right.
I didn't have somebody being who I needed to be, but we were that for each other, for our
Yeah.
own selves. So
Right,
I,
right,
I
right,
really
right.
commend you for being that for other
Appreciate it.
people. You
Somebody gotta do it.
exude that, and I really appreciate that. You don't just say it, but you
Appreciate
actually
it.
live by it.
And shout out to the men that's around me too. I got some great
Mm.
brothers that's also on this journey with me. And I think that's such a rarity nowadays to have a lot of people on the same wavelength. So I'm never alone. I got my business partners, they always with me
Right.
every time we do these. Yeah.
So, I mean, let's men, right? When it comes to that and receiving support, you're doing what you can to,
Yeah.
support other men. But what could, as women, right? And it could even be platonically if we have a
Right,
guy
right.
friend or a guy that we're in relationship with who we feel as though they may need some male some men community, right? Some
Yeah,
men as community within community.
right.
How would you encourage us to go about that?
As far as women,
A woman just trying to encourage men in our lives
yeah.
that, they rather do everything on their own, but we see that they will probably benefit by having other supportive men within their circle. How could we
Okay.
encourage them to find that, or how can they find that? Because
That's a good question.
you're not everywhere.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that's a good question. I think with us, as far as even with you guys, men, we're living in a world where we're asked to be a lot.
okay,
We're asked to be providers, protectors, leaders. Like we got to show up in so many different capacities. So I think
right.
men just need a space where one we can feel heard.
Mm,
And when you can feel heard, you find like peace and some solace with that. So once you feel, once we feel comfortable, we can listen, we can seek advice. But a lot of times, a lot of men has so much pressures of the world, like I said, so it's
right.
hard to get them at a state where they can be receptive to such information. So if
Mm,
you could just provide, the men that peace and that safe space, because you can't ask and try to pull things if you don't feel safe.
that's true.
Because if you don't feel safe, there's no way to let the guard down.
That's
So
true.
I just feel like if that's provided, I see a lot of men right now around me that's, coming closer to that. That's why even hence we're doing a
Yeah.
men's mental health event coming up right now
And when
too.
is that?
That's going to be April 28th of this month.
And where can they find information for this event?
So it can be found on our page, SGDI Serves. SGDI Serves literally on Instagram and all platforms. So we just opened up a registration link for men, the ages of 21 and up,
Mm,
because again, we want to, it's literally called Conversation Amongst Men.
yeah.
We want to bring people in a room where you can be vulnerable, let your guard down, understand there's a non-judgment zone,
Yeah.
and just be able to see that there's people that deal with the same things you deal with,
Right.
and there's people that you can also connect with and also have shared resources with, and just call a place that you can feel safe and feel home and know like we're here for that reason. This is our safe space.
Hmm.
Just unwind, and hopefully it becomes beneficial and it's something we can continue for them.
I love that, and I
Yeah,
really encourage some of all of the men that's watching this
yeah,
to attend and to tap in with Youssouph and what he has to offer as well, because you don't have to do it alone. And sometimes, as ladies,
absolutely.
I feel like sometimes, yeah, we do forget sometimes that we forget the perspectives of a man. So I really appreciate that. Let's jump back into the business side of things,
Let's
right?
talk about it.
So we have entrepreneurship, being a
Yes.
business person. How have you faced or navigated the ups and downs, more so the downs within, as you began evolving
Wow.
within your businesses?
That's a great question.
Because
And
again, don't forget, he started off with as a clothing brand,
yeah,
just selling T-shirts, and then he expanded from that to doing events and to doing a lot
yeah,
of mental health and community work as well.
yeah. That's a really good question. Honestly, I always like to lead with this. Like, I'm Muslim, first
Yeah.
and foremost. So I'm a man of faith.
Hmm.
And that is literally the biggest thing that keeps me grounded, like, first and foremost, because it
Yeah.
gives me a clarity and understanding that I can only control the controllables. And whatever's not in my control, I just leave it up to God.
Right. Right.
Just starting with that, I'm already in a good space.
Okay.
However, there's still the human element where things can happen, where emotions can get triggered. So I have also like had roadblocks where when I had failures or I just got to a point where I didn't know what to do, I had to find other outlets. So for me, going to the gym is one of them.
Hmm.
Going to the masjid is another one. That's the place where we pray at.
Right.
Just being around some of my brothers and just keep myself in a good space because I realized that up here has to be right
That's
for
true.
me to be able to function. And I could try to, do so many things to escape it, but I'm always still going to have to be alone at some point, and I can't escape some of my thoughts. So that's why I
Right.
always do what I got to do to keep myself in a good headspace. And that's really what it is. But it's still, I don't want people to get the idea that because when we talk about faith and things like that, it looks like, oh, like we don't go through nothing. No,
Right.
it's still a lot that, like everybody else, like I think about giving up all the time. I get to the
Wow.
point where I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's next, or I self doubt sometimes. But I'm grateful for the tribe I have in the community
Yeah.
because the supports always gives me a reassurance that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do
Right.
and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
thing about Youssouph that since I've known him, I've never seen him angry. Like even as we were preparing for this episode, I think he mentioned something about like yelling or something like that. And I'm like, Youssouph, you do not yell. I only see him
Yeah.
smile. It's either he just wear it really well, but I think that it really has a lot to do with how you pour into yourself and how much you pour into
Yeah.
yourself, how devoted you are to taking that time to,
Yeah.
making sure that you're right over here and spiritually
Absolutely.
as well, because you can't
Yeah.
pour into others if you're not pouring into yourself. So I really,
That's a bar.
yeah, I really
Yeah, that's a
do
bar.
acknowledge
Man.
that.
Appreciate it.
Um, let's talk about the motherland.
Let's go.
I've seen that you've done a lot of amazing charitable work in Senegal.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little about that and how your culture has shaped not only your business, but your desire to pour back into the community in Senegal.
Oh, Senegal, man. That's for me.
Wait, hold on, real quick. Who has the best rice?
Senegal.
Who
That's
has the
all
best jollof rice? Now we're not saying at all because we know Haitians have the best rice, but um, I did hear between Ghana, Nigeria, and Senegal that
now
Senegal has the best.
it's Senegal, then it's Senegal, then it's anybody else.
They're gonna get you.
Let's put that out there. Yeah. But the motherland, for me, I mentioned slightly earlier that, when I was younger, I got into a little trouble. I was raised in Africa at one point, just for context. When I was much younger, I was there for like 3, 4 years. But long story short, when I got kicked out of high school, my defining moment was me getting sent back home to Africa.
Parents always do that. They always send.
So this generation may not understand, but that was a way of punishment back then. For whatever reason, that's what they did.
Today is what we like, yes, take me back.
Exactly. So when they did that, I went to a secret at events. Just some things that kind of make me have a turning point in my life. And when I came back, this version of myself was birthed from that trip.
Wow.
That's how I got into my entrepreneurialism and I started to start my business. I went to college, things of that sort.
Could you share a little bit about what you actually like experienced, or
I
started getting beatings a lot, or like what happened?
No, at that time, because I got kicked out of, was it junior year of high school, maybe sophomore, one of them. So when I went there, because I was away from Africa for so long, it's one of those things like I forgot where I came from, like, for lack of a better word. And with that, I experienced things that I wasn't accustomed to because I had so much freedom and I did things to my disposal over here. So being back home, it was just a sense of me being humbled again and just gaining insight of where I'm from and to appreciate what I had. Because now I'm in a position where I was struggling more than I was accustomed to struggling because things was not the best for that situation I was in that time. So it made me just look at life from a whole different scope. And with that, I understood that when I come back, I got to look at this as an opportunity that's not given to anybody. Because another thing I realized is I'm in Africa right now, but I'm with people that want to come to America for the quote unquote American dream, but they will never be able to come because they don't have the circumstance that will allow them to come because of papers or whatever the reason is. But I'm like, I'm a citizen. I'm here, and I just wasted this opportunity, and I had to come back to be reminded why I had to look at this as an opportunity. So when I came back, that switched for me, and then that's what I just been moving with a different pep in my step since then. And now that's where that full circle moment coming at. When I started to accumulate success, I looked at it like I would not have been here had I not had that experience. So now my way is going back home to pour back to these people so they can also remember like, yo, I'm grateful for what this country did for me. But also I want you guys to be able to see me and be proud and not think like, oh, he in America, he forgot about us. Because whatever I could do for here, I could do for back home. If I'm doing something for schools here, we go back home, we supply schools. If we do something for villages here or communities, we go back home, we supply all the communities because we just want them to see like, yo, I'm a representation of one of us. So when y'all see me, I want y'all to have a sense of pride and be like, yo, that's our people. This is Senegal. So it just is a sense of joy that I always have because it's for them. It's really for the people. And I pray that we have more opportunities because I want to do everything in my power to make sure Senegal is good. Yeah.
So share a little bit of the work that you do in Senegal. Like, do you do like give backs, or?
Yeah. So we had a few stops there in the last 4 years. So the first thing we did, we just decided to just give food to about 300 families in Senegal because that was
Okay.
my first thing when I went back. I asked, what do you guys need the most? And they kept saying, food is a big issue here. And a lot of times they go days without it in certain areas. So we just targeted those areas to just make sure we raised enough money to give them food in abundance.
I love that you asked instead of
Yeah, instead of
assuming
assuming,
what the
yeah,
need is. A
yeah,
lot of I won't get into that, but a lot of organizations, it's very easy to just
right, right,
see a place of need and be like, I know what you need. You need this, this, and this. No, talk with the people.
yeah,
Actually immerse yourself with,
yeah,
how they're living and what they
no,
need.
that part. And then when we went back again, we asked them again, like the
Yeah.
following year. And then they also brought up like some of the kids couldn't be with their parents. So some of the schools took them in as boarding students. So
Mm,
we decided to supply them with hygiene products,
right.
books, supplies, food. So we just supplied some boarding schools the next time around. So this
Right.
year, I decided to go to Gambia now because that's near Senegal. So the same thing, we saw what they needed, and then they told us the Ramadan just came up, so we just
Yeah.
end up giving them food to be good for the entire month of Ramadan.
Right.
So, and again, I mean, my community, I'm grateful for them. They always come through to help us raise the money, and of course, we thank Allah, meaning God, for Him giving us this platform. And yeah, we just grateful. We don't take this by any means for granted.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how can anyone tap into, like, if they would like to, the next time you're doing some work in Senegal, how can they tap into
yeah,
like providing or giving? Is there like a link, or should they just, be on the lookout on you doing a post of like,
yeah.
hey, this is what we're doing?
That's a good question. So anytime we do it, we always create a GoFundMe link, which
Okay.
is in our bio of our
Mhm.
page. The Somebody Gotta Do It page. That's
Mhm.
Somebody Gotta
Mhm.
Do It with Gotta is a GOTTA in the SGDI service page. So we put the link up, and we also in the future we're trying to see if we can get other organizations involved. So if anybody wants to collaborate, we know the more the merrier, and the more we can like collaborate and raise money, the more people we can take care of. So
Right.
we're definitely trying to do things in a more effective way moving forward, and to make it more impactful.
Right. I know you mentioned that you kind of go year to year. So how do you measure the success of what you've done the previous year? Do you also just kind
Right.
of ask, or?
Yeah, we ask, and the way I look at it, if you can help even one person, that's a success in itself. So the way we look at it, it comes back to everything we do is about the intention.
Hmm.
So this is about if you want to do something for somebody, and the goal is to make them happy. If they're happy, we're happy.
Right.
And sometimes you can't measure success. Obviously, if we can do it for like thousands of people, we'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the goal is, even if it's 10 people that we was targeted, and those 10 people are happy and they're satisfied and it was life
Right.
changing for them,
Right.
then we feel like our job is done. Because again,
Right.
this is about the intent. And a lot of times people may think you got to have millions or whatever the case
Dollars.
is. But I always
Yeah.
tell people, just do what you can with what you have and just start. Like there's no such thing as a small act of kindness. Like
Right.
kindness is still kindness at the end of the day. So that's how we look at that.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So, a little bit back to your clothing line. We have a lot of creatives. This show always wants to target whatever it is that aspiring creatives are looking for to receive insider information. So, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people that would like to start their own clothing brand. How do you feel as though they can, or what advice do you share for on how they can go about that?
I think for anybody who wants to start their clothing brand, I would just suggest that make sure it's something that you're passionate about,
Okay.
and
So,
also
not
do
just
your
about money.
research, because although we was in a position where this fell in our lap and we just capitalized, the conventional way is to know what you're doing,
Right.
have a business plan, go into it the right way, understand the legal system, whether it's an LLC or sole
Hmm.
proprietorship. Just do your due diligence to understand the field you're getting in. And if you have passion, passion changes everything. But at some point, if it's not something you're passionate about, it's going to feel like a burden,
Right.
or it's going to catch up to you where you're going to start to even see it just don't feel like it's something you want to do, because
It's feel like a second job.
now it's just a second job, or you just feel like I'm just doing it because everybody else is doing it. But I think entrepreneurship, everybody should have a chance at doing it. But just make sure it's something you love.
Right.
Something you love could be art. If everybody don't do art, just bring notoriety to art. You don't have to be like, no, but I want to make hats because everybody's making hats. Just
Right.
do what your heart wants you to do, and just follow your passion. And I think they'll be good, especially in a generation like this. It's a
Hmm.
golden opportunity with the way social media is and how that's effective to everything we want to do. I started almost 9 years ago. I didn't have the opportunities that they would have today.
Right.
Yeah.
Going I want to piggyback of what you were just saying in terms of trends. So how do
Yeah.
you kind of like anticipate or stay innovative within like the trends that's going on today? Do you focus on that, or it's just kind of like I'm going to create this next line on an inspiration that I just got when I was back in
Yeah.
Senegal, or
Oh, that's a good question. No, for me, I always it's about the people.
okay,
I always listen to what the people. I'm big on feedback. I'm a very hands-on person. That's why
okay,
when I post, I'm one of those. I respond to everybody's comment. I respond to emails. I'm just always watching what they're saying and listening to what they're asking for, and also paying attention to what's being bought a lot. What's the demand? What do we do that people like so much? What do we do that people
right,
don't
right,
like? They
right,
don't gravitate to, and also pay attention to the trends. Like there's times where now oversized clothes is back in style, or things that.
yeah,
So it's not about what would Youssouph wear. It's about what does my audience want. And when I see what they want, we go to the drawing board and we try to, accommodate them. And at the same time, there is the element of what we do and just sticking to our niche and just tying that together. You always got to find that perfect balance.
right,
But
right.
that's the part of anything you do in life. You just gotta figure it out. And sometimes I may be keen on this idea, but then something may come up where like, yo, this is the demand right now. This is what
Right.
the
Just like
people
the oversized things
like
that's kind of
colors
going.
is in right now,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the case. So we might be like, okay, I wanted to go for like a dark collection, but yo, this is summer. Everybody wearing colors, and this is what they want because they
Right.
got new sneaker releases going on. You'd be surprised how much stuff ties in with that. If all these sneakers is dropping, all right, we gonna accommodate that for what they want to do.
Okay.
So it's really about just paying attention to this market, and customer satisfaction is my biggest thing.
Yeah.
If the customers are happy, we're happy.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So, what are your aspirations for or goals for your clothing brands and your endeavors in Senegal?
For Senegal, I always say I'm a straight shooter with this. I want
Yeah.
to start with that. My goal back home is to create, whether it's a school or a playground, because I want to be able to do something where it's a lasting imprint. Because right now it's good that we're going every year, giving out food and all that, but
Right.
there's always the what's next when we leave. So we provide a space like a community center. We know now we're offering jobs, and also we have a place where kids have stability to know, like, all right, they can be here, or like a school. We know this is funded by people that's the community entrusted,
Right.
and that's going to be something that's a staple to just grow, and we can get funded for that and
Hmm.
also build more on top of that. So I definitely, that's my goals for Africa right now. God willing, inshallah.
Yeah.
And as far as somebody got to do it, this is what I would say. Next year is our 10th year anniversary.
Okay.
So, I'm grateful that, a lot of businesses don't last this long. So our goal right now is to finish this year doing what we do. But
Right.
as far as next year, there will be probably some tweaks about the next decade and things that we want to tap in more. You might see a little shift,
Okay.
but I want that to be announced next year when people come, because it's something we're doing for our 10-year anniversary. So I'm gonna just throw that out a little
Oh,
hit.
so you can't say too
I can't
much.
say too much, but
Okay,
just know
that's
there's
cool.
something we're doing big because we got it's 10-year anniversary. You
Right.
can't just act like that's not something,
No,
right?
that's a
So
big deal. Yeah.
so right now, it's just more of like this year is just like finishing on the way of celebrating ourselves. Like, yo,
Right.
this is the
Right.
road to 10th year. So we're just doing things that we feel right, our spirit is leading us to, and also what the community wants.
Hmm.
But after 10 years, you always want to evaluate yourself. What would this next 10 years be like? And it's
Right.
appropriate because I'm about to be 30. I started at 20, so it's also that element of me being in my 30s and
Right.
also embarking in that decade. So there's a lot of thoughts that's going with that alone. So
Yeah.
so y'all stay tuned. Trust me, we cooking up though. Y'all stay
I
tuned.
mean, I'm going to be anticipating.
Stay
I'm waiting.
tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah. I want to touch on this a little bit
Yeah.
about entrepreneurship
Right.
and 9 to 5s. Okay. So, what would you consider yourself a full-time entrepreneur? Or do you also have like a 9 to 5 or?
I got a 9 to 5, and I've been in a position where I'm just transparent because I think entrepreneurs need to hear that. I've definitely quit my job a few times and just been straight entrepreneurship for years. And then I made some bad investments. And I found
Mm,
myself in a position
going
where
back to
working was the best thing. And I'm never too big to put myself in that position because
right.
I know my end goal and I know myself. I don't judge myself. It's like
Yeah.
I'm doing this as a stepping stone to get to where I need to. So the whole 9 to 5 thing, I think people understand.
Because
If
there's a
that's
trend right now. There's a trend of like,
yeah,
like I want to be an influencer. No shade at all. I want to be an influencer, and I'm just going to quit my job and go into full time influencing, and then it's not working.
I think
So,
people. All right, this is what I would say. Like, know yourself in that conversation.
yeah.
There's person A who has, lived with their parents maybe, which is not. I'm not saying that in a way for people
Right.
to get confused. Just
Absolutely.
meaning they have that, backup plan where if all falls, they have somebody that can fund the
Okay.
money. They ain't got to worry about your overhead. You don't got to worry about rent, things of that nature. So
Right.
if you want to be a full entrepreneur, by all means, that can work for you. There's somebody else who's person B, a parent, maybe got kids, got responsibilities, got bills, who can't have the luxury of being like, let me just quit my job, because
Right.
where is the money going to come to also take care of your real life, responsibilities? So
Absolutely.
I think you just got to know where you fit and stop trying to just be a part of a vast conversation.
Yes.
Just look at what's your reality. You can't go to bed lying to yourself, no matter what
Absolutely.
you try to tell social media. So that's why I don't get too keen on these conversations, these debates, because I feel like to each they own, and everybody knows their reality beyond closed doors. Nobody's telling their full story. Everybody's showing their highlight reel, what looks good, what looks up to par, which is okay. But nobody's talking about when they get fired or when they about to lose their crib. So I just think people got to just, like I said, in short, know yourself in that conversation. Don't get caught up in it.
And it's all about a balance as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Um,
that part. I like
yeah.
that.
There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong because there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. Of course, but we all aspire to either just do what
yeah,
we're passionate about, but also things take time.
yeah,
You're coming up to 10 years, and it took time for you to build to that.
yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah. So, is there well, I was going to ask you, is there anything exciting on the horizon? But you kind of mentioned that
yeah,
you're leading up to, your 10th year anniversary. So I'd
yeah.
rather ask you something else. What is something that you can share to aspiring creatives that will that are looking up to you right now,
Uh,
and that would like to do the amazing things that you're doing, not only within their community but internationally as well?
man, to aspiring creatives, and entrepreneurs, I would just tell them, just look at it as, what if it work out exactly if you imagine it?
Wow, that's so
Like,
good.
there's
That's
always a
good.
risk factor with everything we do.
Yeah.
There's always pros and cons. But I think sometimes the conversations we have with ourselves,
Mm,
we oftentimes talk ourselves out of taking that first step and not taking that leap of faith
right.
because of the fears of, what if it don't work out?
What are people going
What
to
if I fail?
say?
What if people going to look at how
Mm-hmm.
people going to judge me? Or why would I be the one to do this? I don't come from this background. Nobody in my
Right.
family did this. But
Right.
I think we just got to just reaffirm ourselves and just speak positive to ourselves and just look at it like, what if it works out exactly as you imagine it?
Yeah.
You got to give yourself that chance, because I'm okay with knowing that I tried something out and it didn't work, but I gave it my all.
Right.
Than
Right.
me waiting years or getting older and looking back like, yo, when I
Shoulda,
was
coulda,
18,
woulda.
I wish I would have just started my business and just did that,
Right.
because that's what I always wanted to do.
Right.
And that's why I love when Gary Vee always talk about spend time around old people. And I can
Mm.
relate for that, because when you talk to old people, like, he made a good point about how you see them talk about regrets a lot. And that's one of the hardest things, to see somebody talk about regret.
Mm.
You can see it on them. It's just like your life is already
Right.
gone past you. At 90 years old, now all you can just feel with is like lost opportunities, or talking
Yeah.
about what you could have done when you could have just actually took a chance with yourself. So that's all I'll tell people. Like, just ask yourself, what if it works out exactly as you imagine? Because I mean, somebody got to do it,
Somebody gotta do
right?
it. I love that I can so relate to that.
Yeah.
It's we live in a generation where it's just like comparison is at an
Whew.
all time high. And one of the
Too high.
purposes of this
That's a good
talk
point.
show is your purpose with something. God instills something in you
Talk
that no
about it.
one else can replicate.
Talk
No
about
one
it.
else. Yes, there's a bunch of clothing lines out there. There's a bunch of podcasts and talk shows out there. There's a bunch of fashion shows out
Yeah,
there. There's a bunch of people doing work in Africa and other places.
absolutely.
But what are you bringing to the table? What has God instilled within you that you could bring to the table that will impact somebody else?
Yeah.
And I think that we should all think about that. You miss 1,000 chances that you don't. take.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I appreciate having this interview with you,
Of
Youssouph.
course.
I feel like we can sit here and talk all day. Talk to us. Where can we find you?
So, for everybody who wants to find us, again, we're on all social platforms. That's Instagram, that's Twitter, that's Facebook, that's TikTok, that's Snapchat.
Come on.
I consider WhatsApp too, because I be
Come
posting on there too now.
Period.
Come on now. So again, it's somebody got to do it. But the gotta is GOTTA. Somebody got to do it on all platforms. My personal page, I do promote on there too. So if you want to follow that, is use.njai. Njai is N as in Nancy, D as in David, IAYE. You can also follow our SGDI Serves page, our SGDI Talks page. So with all things considered, everything we talk about, you can find all the information on all our platforms.
Yeah.
And you can also see my team on there too when you follow our page. My team is recognizable. Shout out to my guy Shama.
Yes,
Shout out to Eve Money. Shout out to my brother Kareem, and shout out to everybody who's always there when we need them, because we do hire people a lot. So all the staff for fashion shows and pop-up shops, community pop-up shops, the business seminars, the trip to Africa surf team, everybody, thank you guys. You all play a role. Our flyer guy, our host, our DJ. This is a community, as a tribe. I just always have to speak on this because I feel like when we're the face of something, we're like that vessel, so people just see us, but they don't understand. So like, you don't just have the face without the body. You take away everything else. That don't stand alone. So it's everybody that play a role to make this a success. And you guys know yourself. So thank you guys. And somebody got to do a team. And somebody got to do a family. As I always say, SGDI family when I talk. I never say supporters. I never say fans, because I feel like people that support me are my extended family. Yeah. And I always address them as such. That's why I always say my SGDI family. And that's how it's always going to be.
Absolutely.
And thank you too. You're amazing. Thank you for having this, and thank you for doing this, because you're allowing people like myself to get a spotlight, and we appreciate it, because there's a lot of gatekeeping going on in our community.
There's a lot, and I'm telling you, Youssouph will not gatekeep. Go on and ask him a question, because somebody got to do it. Somebody got to show that there's a community out there that do want to see other people win. Right. So I appreciate having you.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. So you all can follow us, Creative Spotlight Unplugged. You can find this episode on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And again, Youssouph, thank you so much for being here.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And somebody got to do it.
Why not?
Make sure you get your t-shirts.